2024 regular. Call to order the regular April 15th, 2024 city council meeting. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Schwartz.
Here.
Member Karen.
Here.
Member Cheney Huggett. Member Gates.
Here.
Member Traver.
Here.
Member Underhill. Member Wolfersberger.
Here.
We have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. I take a motion to please excuse Council Member Cheney Huggett, Council Member Underhill.
So move. Support.
Motion by Council Member Wolfersberger, supported by Council Member Karen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That brings us to invocation. None here today. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That brings us to approval of the agenda. Under item 6, we'll have public comment on agenda items. Person addressing city council are required to give their name and address for the record when called upon by the mayor. Members of the public shall be limited to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Comments shall address agenda item topics. Public hearing items should be addressed during the public hearing portion under item 10. Non-agenda items shall be addressed during the public comment under non-agenda items, item 14. That moves us to number 7, our consent agenda. We have our city council minutes, work session, April 1st, 2024. Regular section, April 1st, 2024. City bills, in the amount of, I have to amend this to include electric purchases in the amount of $1,505,060.96.
No, it's cool.
Yes. Oh, to include the $771,999.83 is the electric charges for the total of $1,505,060.96. City bills, purchases on 3/28/24 in the amount of $58,529.74. Purchases on 4/5/2024, the amount of $473,676.68. And purchases on 4/10/2024 in the amount of $200,854.71. Item C, chapter 53.03, electric rate ordinance amendment, reintroduction instead of public hearing. Item 7D, Schuler sidewalk use permit. Item 7E, American Legion Post 79 poppy sale request. No presentations or recognition. Under item 9, we have an informational item, 2024 action plan, first quarter update. Under item 10, we do have 2 public hearings. Under A, the 500 Industrial Road Special Land Use. And item B, chapter 5303, electric rates ordinance amendment. No old business. Under reports and recommendation, we have 12A, a FOIA appeal request by Mr. Glenn Kowalski. Under item B, DirecTV Uniform Video Service Local Franchise Agreement Renewal. Item C is our trash, leaf, and brush removal millage renewal. No appointments on elections under 1314. We will have our public comment on non-agenda items. Person addressing city council are required to give their name and address for the record when called upon by the mayor. Members of the public shall be limited to speaking for a maximum of 2 minutes. Comments shall address non-agenda item topics only. And then item 15, council manager communications, followed by item 16, our adjournment. Can I get a motion to accept the amended council agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to accept the agenda as amended. Support.
A motion by Council Member Wolfersberger, supported by Council Member Karen. A roll call.
Member Karen.
Yes.
Member Gates.
Yes.
Member Traver.
Yes.
Member Underhill. Oh, sorry. Member Wolfersberger.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries, Your Honor.
Thank you. That brings us to item 6, public comment on agenda items. Persons addressing city council are required to give their name and address for the record when called upon by the mayor. Members of the public shall be limited to speaking for a maximum of 3 minutes. Comments shall address agenda item topics. Public hearing items should be addressed during the public hearing portion under item 10 of the meeting agenda. Non-agenda items shall be addressed during the public comment, non-agenda items, item 14 portion of the meeting. Anybody wishing to speak on agenda items? Yes, sir.
This is working. Got the audio working. Regis Klingler, 348 Butler Court, Marshall, Michigan. I'm addressing some of the issues, questions I had on agenda item 10A, the action plan for 2024. The first item was the Verona Road West Drive construction. I would like to implore that the city try to save some of those trees on the south side of Verona Road. There's some beautiful oak trees there. And I hope that they take that into consideration in the plan, even if you have to maybe use asphalt instead of concrete and go around some of those trees. We've taken a lot of trees down in the zone, and it'd be nice to save a few more. That goes on to my second point, the tree planting. The packet stated that the forestry department is working on places where to plant new trees. I hope you get some input from the public on that. They probably have some good ideas of trees could be planted and what should be planted there. My next item was the fiber net. I personally and other people are still encountering short interruptions at regular intervals. It might be 5-6 seconds. It's enough to throw off if you're watching TV, to boot you out of your program or whatever. I hope that's taken into account when you do your audit or your consultant doing that study, because it's a real hassle. It keeps happening. A lot of people are going to leave. I don't think you want that. Another item that was under the action plan was the master plan update. So there'll be focus groups. I hope that there's members of the public that are included in those focus groups. It certainly would, I think, help the city understand what the people are looking for in a master plan. I hope those Aggressive AE won that contract on a competitive bid, because they certainly have won all the bids on the master plan and other recreation plan and all those also. The last one was also in the action plan in the packet, was issues with development of future uses for the mega site. I hope that you consider that you have the public have a chance to have input on that. That wasn't done the first time. I think it was a major mistake by this council. Obviously, it would have saved a lot of money for the city in legal fees and that kind of thing. I highly recommend that you use a big deal of that campus, if you want to call, for recreational purposes, a park, recreation area, that kind of thing. If 3,000 acres gets developed with having industrial uses, the results are going to be catastrophic. MDOT did a study, the future, I don't know if you've seen that future study, but Michigan's 8-lane road is just not tolerable. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on agenda items? Yes, sir.
Again, Barry Wayne Adams, 622 West Green Street. Issues with again, objection to the minutes. You know, I must be saying stuff that you really don't like, because you go as far as to just say that I made a public comment, and then you put something on YouTube that cuts out the audio when I come up and talk, even though this thing stays green. Chances of doing that were the same chances that the dog ate my homework. So But because of these obvious and blatant attempts to overtly censor important public comment, in my view anyway, but you know, as a taxpayer, you're supposed to be viewing my public comments as having some sort of weight following Article 1, Section 3 of the Michigan Constitution. But because of these things, I was in a discussion last Tuesday with Lieutenant Barry Schrader again of the Michigan State Police, and I informed him of what's been happening. And because, you know, we're getting the same kind of unconstitutional limitation of public comment time in the up in the county commission meetings too, and with the same sort of fallacious pseudo-legalistic rationale. So I spoke to him about it, and I had documentary evidence showing what's been going on, and you know, he entered the information into his laptop and he's looking into it. But while I was talking with him, he let out that the criminal complaint that I had sent to the Michigan State Police Marshal Post, which had then got sent up to the Special Investigations Division, has now been moved up to the Lansing Post, and the Attorney General's office has been asked to assist in the review and investigation. So there are things happening, and then there are other things happening that I shouldn't discuss, but what could be the outcome of what's going on? You know, I don't want to speak for Regis, but just from the tenor of the pleadings, the first potential outcome is denial of the constitutionality of the ordinance, and then it will be ab initio back to zoned agricultural.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to our consent agenda. Under item A, we have our city council minutes from the work session, April 1st, 2024, followed by a regular session, April 1st, 2024. City bills purchases on 3/28/2024 in amount of $58,529.74, followed by purchases on 4/5/2024 in the amount of $473,676.68. Purchases on 4/10/2024 in the amount of $200,854.71. Then we have our electric purchases in the amount of $771,999.83 for a total of $1,505,060.96. We have under C, Chapter 5303 Electric Rates Ordinance Amendment Reintroduction and to set a public hearing. Our Schuler's sidewalk use permit under item D, and under item E, the American Legion Post 79 poppy sale request. Take a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved. Support.
I have a motion by Council Member Karen, supported by Council Member Gates. Roll call vote, please.
Gates,
Yes.
Member Traver,
Yes.
Member Wolfersberger,
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz,
Yes.
Member Karen.
Yes.
Motion carries, Your Honor.
That brings us to item 9A, informational items on our 2024 action plan first quarter update.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor, members of the City Council. As you recall, early January, City Council approved the 2024 action plan, which is a list of 71 specific goals, programs, or activities that we want to accomplish this calendar year. As part of that, we committed to providing you quarterly updates. And this is the first of those 4 quarterly updates. And again, it's just for informational purposes, but following tonight's meeting, we will post that on the city website too, so the public can see our progress as we move forward.
Right. And already a lengthy list you got going on, and City appreciates that. Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll move to item 10, our public hearing and subsequent council action. Item A is 500 Industrial Road, special land use. Persons addressing city council are required to give their name and address for the record when called upon by the mayor. Members of the public shall be limited to speaking for a maximum of 3 minutes per the public hearing on the issue at hand. Eric, can you bring us up?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. In front of you is a consideration for the approval of special land use for 500 Industrial Road. It's actually 2 parcels on that site that previously has been what's been vacant for many years now. It was previously a running Kunstler factory. It is a brownfield site. So definitely some contamination on it. Dark Horse had owned it for several years, used it for parking, overflow parking and that type of thing. They did have a brownfield plan under consideration by the council at one point, but that kind of, while you approved it, no other work was implemented by Dark Horse. So Don Loveland out of Battle Creek has purchased the property from Dark Horse and is requesting to turn it into a self-storage facility. Self-storage, as you've heard me say, I think at least twice in the last year and a half, is a special land use in the I-1 industrial district. You approved one recently at 423 Mitchell for Josh Crabbe, and you also did one on Hanover Street. This went before the Planning Commission last week. Planning Commission reviewed the standards, which are that reports in your packet. And they unanimously recommended adoption of or approval of the special land use by the City Council. As a special land use, you do have additional standards you have to meet. And while I would love to see another use for the site, with the contamination on the site, which the owner has to address, his due care obligations, just like we do on property across the city. We haven't had a better use proposed in the last 10 years. It isn't a special land use, so yes, you have to take this step, but it does meet the ordinance requirements. So staff is recommending as well the approval of the special land use.
Thank you. This time I'll open the public hearing. Item 7A for 500 Industrial Road special land use. Anybody wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
Barry Wayne Adams, 622 West Green Street. And I'll have to take another opportunity to give you a refresher course on corporate fascism. Now, when I was back in junior high and high school, I was taught that a government that has master plans tries to direct economic activity of the private sector, that is impermissible. Now, in America, according to the fundamental principles of Americanism, reiterating, Economics 101 at MSU, there are actually 3 phases of capitalism. There's individualistic capitalism, corporate capitalism, and state capitalism. Individualistic capitalism is what you guys are supposed to be protecting, our right to own property and use it as we see fit, not tell us how to use our property. Corporate capitalism is fascism. It's where corporations have taken over both the government and the economy. This is our state of government at this time. Look at Article 7 of the Michigan Constitution, Sections 1, Section 17, and Section 21. All organs of government have been turned into corporations. They're nothing more than businesses. This is not what America is supposed to be about. Corporate capitalism is the missing link to draw a society from individualistic capitalism into state capitalism, because corporations fundamentally are creations of the state, extensions of the state. And over time, and as we're seeing in the process of the mega site dealings, underhanded dealings, we see how this process works out. Corporations displace the lives and wealth of real people or, with traumatic consequences. The corporation takes hold, and then it is, in fact, the corporation that directs the operations of government. So instead of being a tool for corporate fascism and possibly being subject to criminal charges, you still have a chance, an opportunity to cure about what you've been doing, How many times do people have to come up here? What you're doing is wrong, what you're doing is wrong. And the only one who comes up here and touts, I'll be back.
Anybody else wishing to speak on item A? Seeing none. Close the public hearing. Council, any discussion?
I will say, Your Honor, when this was before the planning commission, there was a lot of really good discussion. I did bring up the fact that this is included in the existing river district. Doesn't really meet the intended, purpose of the river district, but with the brownfield status of the property, it won't support housing or certain types of businesses anyway. So having the storage units, the site plans look very impressive. Going to prepare the lot and put it together in a really presentable and attractive way. So I think ultimately it will support other efforts in the area, but just like I said, it passed the planning commission unanimously, and the gentleman, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, Don, brought a really great presentation with him. He's got some definitely a lot of professionals working with him to make sure this is done right. It'll be, Eric probably actually has the diagram. It'll be completely fenced. They're actually doing two, I guess you added the collection ponds, is that what they're toward up near the industrial road. And then the driveway will go back. I'm not sure. I didn't remember how long the driveway was.
Oh, it's at least 50 feet.
Yeah.
The fence, the storage areas, the units themselves are fenced in. It has a double gate there, so you've an egress and ingress. He's got the required landscaping that blocks the residential neighborhood, even to the point that Mr. Banfield, if you've worked with Tim, very passionate about landscape, gave him kudos for the work they did on that. And they are also working with an environmental consultant to deal with their responsibilities as a property owner. We have a meeting that we're trying to get scheduled with them right now, so.
This is the area right behind the Advisor Chronicle, correct? Yeah, so it's very limited what can be done there. Did notice it does have a robust, landscaping plan, and being set back from the road would also be pleasing to the area as well with the retention pond. So it has that green space. That's what I saw in the drawing anyway.
The only other thing I want to add is our consultant, Spicer, who's doing all the stormwater reviews, has signed off on the stormwater plan. And they went back and forth a few times with their engineer, and everybody's on the same page right now, so.
And they have to clean up what is already there in order so it doesn't leach, correct?
No, they have, depending on what the contamination is and how they approach it, there's some abilities to put a barrier over it. And as long as you don't disturb the ground, use the same type of chemicals and increase the level. So that's what their brownfield consultant's working on right now. Because of the stormwater, they were trying to not let it go down into the ground and let it, help push the chemicals. So that's why the basins are there, and it'll be discharged over Mulberry Street.
Very good. Any other discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you. Take a motion to approve special land use number 24.01 for the self-storage facility parcels number 53-002, 552-001, and 53-002-560-00 at the 500 Industrial Road.
Moved.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Wolfersberger, supported by Councilmember Gates. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That brings us to item 10B, public hearing for the chapter 5303 electric rate ordinance amendment.
Correct.
Land use.
So at last meeting, the chapter 53 ordinance amendment was introduced. However, we noticed that the draft ordinance was placed in the packet, not the actual finalized ordinance. So tonight, because we did set the public hearing at the last meeting, we think it's appropriate to conduct the public hearing. However, we're not looking for any action from city council tonight. In fact, if you look at your consent agenda, what we're doing is reintroducing that. So we'll basically have a second go at it to make sure that the correct ordinance is in there. As far as what the actual content of the ordinance is, while reviewing the ordinance, the rate setting methodology between the water, wastewater, and the electric utility were different. The electric utility could not be set by resolution. We want to do that so it's similar to the water and wastewater rates. So that's essentially what this ordinance would do. Once at the next meeting, if you are so inclined, you would adopt that ordinance and make that change. But tonight, again, we think it's appropriate to conduct a public hearing. And again, not looking for any enactment after the public hearing tonight.
Thank you. This time, open the public hearing for chapter 5303 electric rates ordinance amendment. Anybody wishing to speak? Yes.
Barry Wayne Adams again. As part of this incremental chewing away at our the discretionary portion of our incomes to inevitably siphon more and more to our utilities. It would be instructive for you to get a hold of a book called Entropy, A New Worldview by Jeremy Rifkin. And he goes into a very extended, scientifically based explanation as to why it is impossible to get ahead in terms of energy transfer systems when you use a non-living energy transfer system versus a living energy transfer system. So, you know, we see these things come every so often, you know, gotta juggle the numbers around, juggle the formulation. But inevitably it's picking the pocket more and more. But in a way that's to be expected because we have become more and more reliant on what's known as the exosomatic energy transfer system. And in the process, we're burning up the planet more while professing to be getting more green. So over time, inevitably, and now that World War III is just about to start, we're probably gonna have to start looking at a more self-reliant way to actually get substantial commodities without having to rely on the corporate economic system, because the corporate economic system is dysfunctionally codependent on the hyper technical electronic communication system. You know, somebody who has a garden in their backyard, simple example, somebody has a garden in their backyard, doesn't have to go earn money to go down to the grocery store to go buy a cucumber. It's that simple. And because we're running out of what was a very abundant fuel source, we can't expect to go over to electric and get ahead of the game. Actually, as we're finding out with the EV stuff, the EV hoax, it's actually almost twice as anti-green as a combustion vehicle, internal combustion vehicle. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak? This is item B under the publics for the chapter 5303 electric rates ordinance amendment. You bet. Seeing none. Close the public hearing, council discussion. Will be no action taken this evening, other than I'll take a motion to hold a public hearing on ordinance 2020, and under the consent. So we'll follow through, and that'll be on May 6th, next meeting. Action taken. That brings us to item 12A, FOIA appeal request by Mr. Glenn Kowalski. Dirk?
Thank you, Your Honor, members of the City Council. Again, you have a memo in front of you, Administrative Report 12A, providing some of those details. But essentially, Mr. Glenn Kowalski submitted a FOIA request requesting a copy of the current water supply and wastewater plan that the city has for the Marshall Mega Site, also known as the Major Campus. The city clerk is our FOIA officer. She received that and responded to Mr. Kowalski saying that it would require basically compiling several records and documents. She put together an estimate on what that would cost. That was provided to Mr. Kowalski, and he is appealing that. He did not feel that that was appropriate. So as part of our FOIA policy, he has the right to that appeal. And again, he requesting that this administrative body then review that appeal. We've outlined the options for city council as far as waiving the fee, reducing the fee, upholding the fee, and issuing a notice of extending it. He's also requested that this is appealing the final decision. Essentially, he's claiming that this should be a document that's readily available and shouldn't require city staff taking the time to gather all that, review all that, and provide that to him. So he's also looking to appeal that decision too. So your options there would be reverse the denial, issue a written notice to the requesting person upholding the denial, reverse the disclosure denial in part, or issue an extension essentially if there was extenuating circumstances. So again, Michelle's here. She can answer any questions. Obviously, Attorney Revore is here if you have any additional questions, but that's what's before you tonight is to, as the legislative body, act as the adjudicator on this request.
Thank you. Mr. Revore, can you please come up? Under the FOIA, is it the least amount charged to the person that can perform that duty? Is that my understanding?
It's the amount of the person that's capable of doing that work. And I would say that person would be the person that's actually knows the material, that's able to search for, recognize material to the best of their ability, and then review for possible redactions or compliance with the law in terms of that. So when you look at that person in such a type of document, would probably be someone of a professional status that is familiar with reviewing those documents. And while our clerk does a great job at what she does, these documents are probably more in line of an engineering type of review.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for city attorney?
I have a question just for clarity. I think from a layperson's perspective, it does look like Mr. Kowalski is really asking for basically 3 reports, which theoretically wouldn't be that hard to simply pull, but in terms of reviewing them, we're saying it would require somebody with an engineering background, and that review would be because we need to identify potential areas that would need to be redacted. Is that correct?
So I was told when I sent the request to the departments that it is not just simply one document for water or simply one water or wastewater document. It is multiple documents and multiple reports that make up these plans. So it would take a couple days worth of to pull all the required documents for that he is requesting. It is not simply one single document. It is multiple documents that would be over 1,000 pages.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
I think to piggyback on Mr. Gates' question, I'll ask the same thing. We would be redacting information as well too, because there are items that could be subject to national security with water systems and such as such.
That is correct. We would be having to review all the documents for any potential exemptions and redactions that would need to be made, which is the bulk of the time on that.
Thank you.
I'll just ask, just so it's out in public. I assume I know the answer to this, but you made a good faith estimate of the amount of hours it would realistically take to accomplish this work.
Correct. I was told by the department it would take approximately 1 day for water, 1 day for wastewater, and then it is actually given from the different state entities and from different things that you've taken into account when you're doing FOIAs is it's traditionally a minimum of 1 minute per page for information you are familiar with. For information you are not familiar with, you need to estimate at least 1.5 to 2 minutes per page. And that was the estimating time that was used.
Thank you.
Gracious, it's discussion. So. You out of order. Council, last warning, or you're gonna be asked to leave. Thank you. So through this process, we looked at the time it would take from the professionals. Do we have these documents? Because we do not have to create documents, correct?
That is correct. FOIA does not require you to create or speculate on any documents. So it would be all documents that are in our possession. They are in multiple servers or in different places. They are not all in one place even, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Any other questions for the clerk? Mr. Kowalski is not here to provide any information.
Correct. Mr. Kowalski had a conflict. Again, he did send his email to present his information to city council, and you should have that in front of you.
Right, I do have that in my possession.
Your Honor, I would make a motion that the city clerk issue a written notice to the requesting person upholding the disclosure denial.
Support.
I have a motion to submit a denial for the FOIA request to the city clerk to issue to Mr. Kowalski by Councilmember Wolfersberger, supported by Councilmember Craver. Do a roll call vote, please.
Member Traver,
Yes.
Member Wolfersberger,
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz,
Yes.
Member Karen,
Yes.
Member Gates. Motion carries, Your Honor.
Thank you. That brings us to item 12B.
I just have a point of clarification. I want to make sure that that also included the fee, that there be no reduction in fee, or was that your intent, or should you act upon that?
That was my intent, but I realized that, yeah, I did not include it in the, should we vote separately?
I think so. I think that'd be appropriate then.
Then I'll make a motion that we uphold the decision on the fee.
Hold the fee and issue a written documentation to the requesting person.
So moved. Or
I have a motion to uphold the fee by Councilmember Wolfersberger, supported by Councilmember Traver. Roll call vote, please.
Member Karen,
yes.
member Gates,
Yes.
member Traver,
Yes.
member Wolfersberger,
Yes.
Mayor Schwartz.
Yes,
Carries, Your Honor.
thank you. Brings us to item 12B, DirecTV Uniform Video Service Local Franchise Agreement Renewal. City Manager.
Thank you. In 2014, the city executed a uniform video agreement per Michigan Public Act 480 of 2006 with AT&T. They are now going by the name DirecTV. That is set to expire on May 19th, 2024. DirecTV has completed the standard Michigan Public Service Commission renewal and are requesting a 10-year renewal term. We do receive a 5% franchise fee per the law, which is the maximum allowed with them. On an annual basis, this provides about $8,400 in revenue to the city general fund. What we're asking tonight is to approve the DirecTV Uniform Video Service Local Franchise Renewal Agreement as presented and authorize the city manager and city clerk to sign the necessary documents.
Thank you. Council discussion?
Just to clarify, is there any sort of exclusivity granted with this, or it's just one license? I mean, anybody else could theoretically apply for a similar license?
Yeah, absolutely. If there was another provider that would like to service the city of Marshall, they would fill out this state form and follow the procedures. And we would be before you again with this exact document.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'll move that we approve the DirecTV Uniform Video Service Local Franchise Renewal Agreement as presented and authorize the city manager and city clerk to sign the necessary documents.
Support.
Have a motion by Councilmember Karen, supported by Councilmember Wolfersberger. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Sign. Motion carries. Brings us to item 12C, trash, leaf, and brush removal, millage renewal.
All right, thank you again, Your Honor. The current voter approved trash, brush, and leaf removal millage set at 0.75 mils authorized is set to expire this year. This dedicated millage provides the necessary funding for a single pass curbside brush pickup in April, a bulk curbside trash pickup in May, and 2 passes for curbside bulk leaf pickup in October through December, depending on leaf drop and weather. As discussed at the work session on March 18th, we have prepared a ballot renewal resolution for your consideration. If approved by the voters in August of this year, the dedicated millage of 0.75 mils would generate approximately $200,000 for the program annually. As part of the renewal, we are recommending a 4-year term, 2025 through 28 inclusive, for the millage authorization. It's been brought to my attention on the resolution, and we would request that you make an annotation to it is in the actual language under the now therefore, shall the city of Marshall, it needs another L.
Yep. Spelling apart.
Yep.
Really. Discussion by council. We had this work session.
Yeah, I'll say the same thing I said in the work session. This is a extremely popular service that's provided to the city, and I strongly support renewing.
With that, I'll take a motion to approve resolution 2024-7, a resolution to authorize ballot proposal to renew millage for the annual trash, leaf, and brush millage program, and authorize the city manager and city clerk to sign the necessary documents, including the correction with the other L.
So moved.
Have a motion by Councilmember Gates, supported by Councilmember Traver. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That brings us to public comment on non-agenda items. Persons addressing city council are required to give their name and address for the record when called upon by the mayor. Members of the public shall be limited to speaking for a maximum of 2 minutes. Comments shall address non-agenda item topics. Public hearing items shall be addressed during the public hearing section of 10. The meeting agenda items should have been addressed during the public comment on agenda items under item 6 portions of the meeting agenda. Anyone wishing to speak on yes, ma'am.
Kelly Isaac, 321 North Liberty Street here, right here in Marshall. I was just looking at all the men that have held this position of mayor out there through the years. And one thing that was glaringly obvious is there's no women on that board. And it's probably time for a woman to step up. We need more women involved. I think women are generally protective. They're protectors. They're protectors of their children. They're protectors of their environment. I think it's ridiculous to deny somebody's request for information about the wastewater. They're citizens. They're citizens that want to know what's going on in the community. They want to protect their families, and rightfully so. Now, you can miss my 2 minutes or whatever, like you did last week. That's fine. I've been ignored longer than that by, people that love me. So anyway, my point is people are going to ask questions and they need answers and they deserve answers. And I don't know what your guys are hiding. I mean, I don't know why it's a big deal to get information. You have to FOIA everything from the city. We're 7,000 people. That's a small town. We should have one-on-one conversations. It shouldn't be like, oh, you can't talk out of turn and you're banging your gavel. Whatever happened to hometown TV and the broadcast of all these wonderful meetings that we had and the camaraderie of our community? It's all gone down the drain. It's gone down the drain because nobody's transparent anymore. It's all been hidden, all these secret things done in the dark, and it's not good. It's really not good. I hope things change. I got 13 seconds. I appreciate you recording these meetings now, and please don't censor us anymore because we're not going anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
Again, Regis Klingler, 348 Butler Court, Marshall. I just wanted to address the effects of the mega site, the traffic that would be incurred with that, not only additional trucks, but the shift changes and that kind of thing. MDOT did a traffic study. Unfortunately, what was on Maida's site was not the complete study. There was a couple sections missing that addressed developing the whole mega site, including the Sack Rider parcel. I hope you have read this, because if you haven't, it's just I-94 will be 3 lanes from Kalamazoo to I-69. Michigan Avenue would be 8 lanes. Verona would be 4 lanes, 15 Mile would be 4 lanes. It's just incredible. I mean, city of Detroit and its suburbs don't have that big maybe Woodward Avenue, but it would be just devastating to this area. I mean, we don't want to be a municipal area like Detroit. I mean, that's why most people moved here, because it is a small area. And I hope you really consider using some of that land for recreation purposes. That will bring economic activity to the area. It'll be something that the citizens all can enjoy, not just Ford and not just the city. So if you haven't read that, I would read it. Go to the michigan.gov/MDOT and read the whole report, or I've got a copy of it if you'd like to see that section. But that doesn't, the existing report from MAIDA does not address the future studies. It was completely gone. There's 3 or 4 pages not there. Unfortunately, neither report had a date on it or a revision on it. So it's entirely not possible to determine which came first and which came last. So please think of that when you're looking at and discussing future uses for that land. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Non-agenda item? Who wants to speak? I call upon. Thank you.
Rebecca Sebring, Fredonia Township. Like I said before, this whole meta thing is really communism. I've told you that it's worldwide, the World Economic Forum, the Chinese Communist Party, parts of the UN and everybody in their countries that have sold everybody out, who don't care about their children or grandchildren's. This is a real link. This is a real thing. Your AT&T is owned by the CCP, Chinese Communist Party. Did you know that? There's only 1 or 2 phone companies that aren't. You guys need to wake up and realize you're being played. It's not too late to correct your karmic debt. Your soul's eternal. You're going to have to deal with it at some point in your lives or towards the end. You need to just try to correct things now while you're still alive, for real. And if the people are shouting they don't like it, can't we do a compromise? And as for the FOIA thing, have you guys never heard of Judicial Watch with Tom Fenton? Seriously, look on YouTube. Check out Epic Times on YouTube. There's Crossroads with Joshua. You'll see the truth. NTD News. This is the truth. You need to discernment like God told us. You know why I'm here? Because I have a farm and I love my farm. I love this little town and I want to stay free. Give me freedom or give me death, period. And they will take everything you have and they will tell you you're only allowed 1 animal. This is Stalin stuff. I'm not joking. It's real. Wake up. Use your discernment like you do the Bible. Use your discernment. I don't care what your religion is or anything. Do you have a conscience? Please think about your children. Think about your home. I don't want this place to get huge and industrial. This is just wrong. I don't know why you're doing this to all of us. Have we not been good enough? Seriously. I have never gotten in trouble with law. I don't know what you people want us to do, but I'm willing to work with you to restore our home back to this peaceful area that we are now. And thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on non-agenda items? Yes, ma'am.
Julie Bryant, Squaw Creek. So I haven't been over here in a while, so I thought I'd just come visit you guys. I saw your meeting on YouTube this last time, and it seems like the only people that were against the mega site, they were the only ones that you couldn't hear. Then I saw Richard Lindsay said online that that was a glitch. So I'm here to cover your glitch. I'm gonna come in. We got you on live. You know, there's, been too much secrets. There's been too much NDAs and hiding facts, keeping things from the public, just like Glenn's thing, ridiculous. And speaking of the public, Regis said something about the public, mentioned it several times. All I could do is shake my head. You guys, if you all cared about what the public thought about any of this, we wouldn't be where we are today with the major mega mess. Okay, you can name it, 15 different things, but a turd is a turd. Let's just face it, right? I heard now we're worried about green space in front of a storage place. Now we're worried about national security at this point when we have Air National Guard bases and stuff 10 miles from us. We're still out on Wednesdays from 3:30 to 5:30 and noon to 2 protesting. We still have a case and appeals case, which hopefully you guys are keeping up with that, and it got moved ahead by the court. So that's good, expedited. We had a great turnout on Saturday, and we had a special guest. We had a reporter from the Times Magazine. So thanks to the edraofmichigan.org, which they are up in Goshen, which if you guys follow they're not in Goshen, they're fighting against Goshen. But if you follow any of this kind of good stuff, they're the ones that replaced all their board. So, you know what? Keep the public in mind. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
Again, Barry Wayne Adams, again, 622 West Green Street. What Julie said is Saturday, noon to 2. In America, when you have a public meeting and you're using your gavel to shut people up and not have a meaningful interchange with your bosses. These guys are your bosses. You're not creating order, you're creating authoritarianism. And Americans are supposed to do things to make sure that that doesn't continue and further manifest. So you guys are making a real good record for us. We're gonna bring this stuff over to the Michigan State Police. You know, there is no authority on your part. The Open Meetings Act doesn't work. No law shall be enacted that restricts or abridges freedom of speech or the press. Open Meetings Act is a statute, an enactment, so it cannot apply even when you try to use that very vague, intentionally vague clause to try to encroach upon the contours of the First Amendment. When it comes to FOIA requests, you know, we see that the Freedom of Information and Fact is actually being used as the Freedom from Information Act. And any of the requests like Mr. Kowalski makes or similar requests are exempt because they are dealing with issues of public significance. So they should actually be provided to us because the public records are the property of the people. Waiver of tort still goes on. It's still.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to speak on non-agenda? Yes, sir.
Rick Sadler, Marshall Township. I have a couple questions, actually. The max height, story-wise, for buildings in Marshall? Anybody know right off the top of their head? Because I'd like to know what that is, excluding the steeples, obviously, like the churches and stuff. Okay, and second thing, how is your statute on exhibition driving going? Because if y'all take a look out here on Saturday between 12 and 2, there's a lot of people that probably could be discussed or have that statute discussed with them pretty much any time. So thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on non? Yes, ma'am.
Stephanie Klingler, 334 North Grand in Marshall. I just have a brief comment. The weather's been really nice lately and a lot of people have been downtown walking around, enjoying themselves. And I've noticed, as I did last season as well, that there's a lot of very, very large trucks barreling down through our downtown, our beautiful, serene, lovely town. And I just would like to ask or suggest that there be a mandatory truck route for those big construction trucks. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on non-agenda items? Seeing none. That brings us to council and manager communication, Council Member Gates.
Sure. I would say just one response regarding the trucks going through downtown. That is it's a MDOT right of way there. I think I can speak for most of us up here. If we could get the big trucks to not be zooming through downtown, we would do that if we had the power, but it's not something we can control, unfortunately. But I did have a farmers market meeting this last week, and they're gearing up for summer market. We did find out that Cody, the current market manager, is going to be stepping down from that position. He and his family are moving away, so we certainly wish them the best, but there will be a search for a new market manager. That's all for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Karen.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Councilmember Traver.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Member Wolfersberger.
We had a planning commission meeting this past week. Progressive AE came in and did a presentation speaking about the updated master plan and recreation plan and transportation plan and just a lot going on. The sorry, I lost my train of thought. The are already starting to schedule the public input sessions. They have plans to be, I believe, at the farmer's market. They have plans to be at Blues Fest. They're going to be where the people are to actually get input from them. So very excited to hear all that. And yeah, they really, actually, I think it's going to work out very well. They were the little bidder on all of those projects. But I think it's going to work out really well to be able to really look at the interaction between those different plans and make sure there's a good, consistent thought through all of them. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. City Manager?
Thank you. At the last city council meeting, we had a resident that lives near Sherman Pond come in and speak to the pipe underneath the road, and Public Works did go out there and remove some of that debris. However, we do have an active beaver in the pond, so he's very industrious, and every time we remove stuff, he puts stuff back in there. So we're working with the local state agencies, potentially a animal control agency, to try to figure out a plan of attack for that. Because we do need to keep that culvert open.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Nothing for me today.
Thank you. Coming up in May, we have our Police Memorial Week. May 15th is the actual Police Memorial Day. And then May 27th is our Memorial Day, and city will be closed on that Monday as well, correct? Yes. That's all I have. A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Wolfersberger, supported by Council Member Karen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is passed. It's adjourned.